everybody. Welcome to The Wrong End of the Snake. It's a webcast about audio, touring, and the relationships we have built between our road families. Tater and I have had an 18-year relationship on The Wrong End of the Snake with bands like Ted Nugent, Kid Rock, Slash, Stone Temple Pilots, Prophets of Rage, Iron Maiden, and most notably, 10 years as front of house and monitor mixers for Linkin Park. My co-host, Kevin Tater McCarthy, is a world-class monitor engineer with over 30 years in the business. I'm very proud to call him my friend. He has 9 Top Dog Monitor Engineer of the Year awards and 2 Parnelli Monitor Engineer of the Year awards. I'm Ken Van Druten, aka Pooch. I'm a front house engineer with 3 decades in the music industry. I'm a 3-time Grammy-nominated recording engineer. I have 8 Top Dog Front of House Engineer of the Year awards. And I am also a winner of the Parnelli Front of House Engineer of the Year award. Let's do a little housekeeping. Please use the chat window of the Zoom app to communicate amongst yourselves. If you are streaming from our YouTube channel and you want to be able to ask questions of our guests, register to be on the Zoom call for future episodes. Links to register are in all of our social media. If you have any questions for our guests, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of the Zoom app. We will answer as many questions as possible during the hour and then answer any leftover questions in our Q&A overtime episode. Look for that to be uploaded to our YouTube channel in a few days. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to visit our social media. YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook is at Wrong End of the Snake. Tater, why don't you tell us about our guest this week?
All right, this week we have Mr. Steve Botting. Steve is the mastermind behind EFM USA Logistics, along with his partner, Mike Llewellyn. EFM is a worldwide shipping and logistics service that handles leading brands and the biggest names in music, sport, automotive, events, stage, and screen. EFM has been behind successful delivery of many of the greatest shows of the 21st century. Prior to his work in logistics, Steve was a very successful front of house and production manager for bands like No Doubt, Lauryn Hill, Adam Ant, Sinead O'Conner, the Bangles, just to name a few. Let's welcome Steve Botting.
Thanks for coming, Steve. We really appreciate you giving us some of your time.
Hey, thank you, gentlemen. Thanks for inviting me onto your show.
Yeah.
So let's, there's all kinds of stuff that we want to get into.
But before we do, answer me, which end of the snake am I on? Is it the wrong end or the other? And what is on the other end of the wrong end?
I think that you're on the right end of the snake, being a fellow front of house engineer.
That's right. That's right.
But yeah, that's where that term comes from. Both. Whenever Tater came to visit me at front of house and just to say hi or whatever, I'd always go, "Dude, you're at the wrong end of the snake, man. What are you doing out here?"
Right, that's where that comes from. I was curious.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. All right, carry on.
Thanks for coming. I think, we want to get into definitely, how you ended up where you are, talking about our relationship and how we've, known you for so many years. But we kind of want to know what your history is, like where you came from. Can you kind of start at the beginning? Like, where did you grow up? What's your story? How'd you get into the music business?
I grew up in Brighton, England. I was a massive music fan. I went to many concerts starting at from 11, 12 years old. At that time, it was all the Sweet, Slade, T-Rex, Gary Glitter, who's out of favour now, David Bowie, those type of bands, and decided that I was brilliant and was going to be a singer. I wasn't brilliant. I was a crap singer. Not bad sax off of it. But one of the reasons I got into sound was I did electronics sitting guilds. And one of the reasons I got into audio was I could never hear myself singing. So I decided to build my own PA system. And before long, other bands were asking me to go and mix their sound. And I was renting out my PA system whilst having a job. And I soon realised that I was a better engineer than I was a singer or a band member. So that's kind of how it all started. And in between doing shows and working a regular job. I mean, I used to, when the punk explosion happened and the new wave, every opportunity I was at a venue, either working it or seeing a band. Yes, and that's how it was started for me.
That's awesome. And so you said you had an interest in electronics. Like, how did that all start? Where did that come from?
I started that. I did a City and Guilds. I got offered a job before I left school, full-time college, paid. And so I jumped on it before I left school, and the school were pissed off at me and didn't, in fact, send my qualifications, but I didn't really care. GCEs they didn't send because I didn't finish school. I started work before I finished school, and I did that full release at college for a couple of years, and then finished it up myself. But of course, all that kind of stuff is so passé now. I mean, I remember my colleagues are like, "Oh God, the microchips coming in. What are we going to do?" Because it's all resistors and transistors and diodes, and resistor color codes and that kind of stuff, and equations. And of course, now they're all in miniature circuits, and everybody was frightened they were going to be out of a job as soon as the microchip turned up.
I know it. Yeah. It's funny, I lived that whole, analog to digital switch in studios, but I also lived it in live sound. And, it's funny what people, when there's a big revolution of whatever, electronics or in this case, analog to digital, people make up all kinds of things like, oh, we're never going to work again. This is going to take all our jobs. It's like, guess what? It's made.
I had a question for you. When you switch from analog to digital, I mean, I've never actually went that far because I moved on from doing audio for the most part. Though I still keep my hand in now and again. Did digital seem too clinical for you, or?
Oh man,
yeah. I mean, is there a mixture of like using analog and digital you work together with, like valve mics and that kind of stuff for breathiness?
Especially in the early beginning of digital audio, I was just like, this is crap. Why are we doing this? It sounds horrible.
Yeah.
And then also along with that, at least in the live switch, the technology was released before it was really ready. And so, I had like several digital audio pieces leave me stranded. And so not only did it not sound great when it first came out, but it also was not reliable. So there was a bunch of years there where I didn't make the switch and was holding on. I know you did that too, right, Tater? You were like,
well, I mean, my first was the show console, which I did think sounded great. Actually, I thought the show console was
but that was a digital control of analog audio.
But leaving you stranded, we all know the stories of that. So. And I went right to Yamaha 5D after that, which I chose it because of its reliability. Really because of the reliability, and stuck with that for quite a while. But Steve might not remember this. We're going to probably get to there, but I did a tour with Steve when he was a front of house engineer.
Whoa!
Really?
I don't want to say we toured together. We were on the same tour, but it was a mighty big tour. The Bangles were opening for George Michael, and I was doing the Faith tour, and you were mixing the Bangles in front of house.
That's right. We did 5 shows. That's right, because it was like down in Florida, mainly in New Orleans. And I remember the Bangles keyboard player, the hired hand, George Michael loved the centipede game, and he had the high score. And just as he was about to beat his own high score, Walker came by and kicked out the power cord and dumped the. Wow, we did 5 shows down. It was the end of a grueling tour, that was, and the girls got offered good money to go and do a 45-minute opening slot. So we did 5 shows in Florida and New Orleans, I think, because George couldn't sell those out completely, and so we joined the tour. But no, I'm sorry, that's a great recollection. Sorry, I don't remember you on that, Taylor.
I don't think you would. And it was it was the stadium shows. It was big audio crews, a lot of stuff going on. So
What were you doing there, Tater? Were you pushing boxes and flying PA?
There was 3 of there.
Plugging back in the centipede machine, right?
The centipede machine working. No, there was. They were on tour doing arenas, and they went to stadiums. So they sent 3 of us out there, which wasn't nearly enough to be the stadium supplemental PA crew.
Gotcha. So you were flying delays and doing.
No, I was doing stage left main hang on the 3rd deck.
Oh wow!
Who was front of house on that? Was that Benji?
Benji.
Yeah.
Benji LaFleur. He's awesome engineer. I'm sorry that he's not mixing anymore. It's
Yeah,
good dude.
Benji, and it started off with, I think Vish was on monitors at the end, and Chris Wade Evans was monitors.
What's Vish doing these days? I haven't spoken to him for a while.
I just saw him. I saw him at the a Shure meeting in Chicago we had for 3 days. He's doing good, same as ever.
Isn't he
He'll always
doing
be great. He's doing some famous girl.
Yeah, what's her name? Ariana Grande. Isn't he mixing her?
He might have been. I always say he's always with Miley Cyrus or one of the somebody.
Oh,
like that.
right. Maybe it's Miley
I've
Cyrus.
done a number of tours with Vish. I like. He's really
great
lovely.
engineer.
No,
Yeah,
he's really great. What was it like working from the Bangles? Were they a lot of fun to work for, or not so much?
No, they were good fun. Yeah, I mean, it made me move to America, so yeah, I guess it's really good.
There you go.
Yeah, no, they were a good bunch. It was a good time. It was a lot of fun till the end there. But it was So
obviously one of them changed your life. You moved to America, right?
Yeah, sold up everything in England and moved away with just a suitcase. Just in case I had to scarper quickly back to England. That was about 1987, I think, and been here ever since.
So that was your foray coming to America. Was that change?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Much. Okay.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Little thing called love.
Yeah. Little thing called love. Yeah, that's awesome. So tell me, there's another artist that I saw in your list of artists that you work for doing, production managing and front of house for, which was Marc Cohn,
right.
Which I always thought, that record, that first record, Silver Thunderbird and Walking in Memphis and all that stuff. What an amazing sounding record.
Yeah, the second record was even better in my opinion. But
yeah, absolutely, I totally agree with you. I used to. When I was working as a recording engineer, producer, they had just come out or something. Anyway, I remember listening to that record and just going, man, this record sounds amazing. Was he that way live? I never saw him live.
Absolutely brilliant. I mean, the tour, I was with an Italian artist called Zucchero. I was his tour manager for a number of years in the mid-90s. And the wife fell pregnant with my son. And I decided to take 3 months off. And I thought, I thought it'd be easy to just take 3 months off and get back into it. 3 months turned into 6 months. And I didn't realize at the time that because I was working with, it's stupid really. I was working with an Italian artist for so many years in Italy, living in Italy for a part, that I fell off the radar. Because he doesn't sing in English, and even though he's massive in Italy and like one of the biggest, if not the biggest, artist in Italy, and sells a million units at least each record he releases, and still going strong now. Of course, I was. Who's that? Who are you? What? You send your resume.
No.
So the 3 months turned to 6 months, and actually my brother gave me the lead for Marc Cohn, and it was great because he had 2 young kids, and I'd got a new boy. So I didn't want to spend too much time away from home. So he worked 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off, which was perfect. And he's with his guitar player, Shane Fontaine, another English guy, lovely guy. We just had a blast. I mean, he played for Bruce Springsteen, and Mark, just super talented, beautiful voice. The 3 of us just ripped it up. We had a great time. He was brilliant live. I did everything. I was booking the flights. We were all flying most of the time first class, staying in Four Seasons or Ritz-Carltons. There's only 3 of us on the tour.
That's great.
There was Mark, Shane, and myself, and I did everything. So I made sure his monitors were okay, mixed front of house, did the tour management, did everything. But I was with him for a year, and it was really good.
I don't know what happened to him. Is he still around? Is he still making records? Do you know?
He called me up one time to go and work for him, and I was somewhere in some godforsaken place in the world with another artist, and I regret actually I never even called him back, which I should have done. And we kind of fell out of touch, but he's still, I still see him touring, and I've been meaning to get down to when I see him playing locally. I've been meaning to get down there and give him a kick in the shin, but I haven't actually got around to doing it yet. But he's as far as I know, he's still touring and loving life.
That's awesome.
Did Elizabeth Vargas give you the news all the time? You were up to date on everything while you were out there, or didn't you see her much?
I didn't see her much, no.
Oh, okay.
Funny. So tell us how you came upon coming to deciding that you want to start a vendor, a sound, or early on in your career, you started a sound vendor, right?
Yeah.
And tell us how that went. That didn't go very well.
That was, well, it went okay, but it was again, it was renting my PA out, and all the money I was making, I was plowing back into. It was only a small system. We did clubs and colleges and some theatres, and I owned my own truck, and I employed one guy. Then my brother come and worked with me for a bit. But it seemed to dawn on me that buying, you guys you're greedy. You want all the new toys that come out all the time, and they're expensive. I mean, it was impossible to keep up with the big boys at the time, like N-Tech and whatnot, and they wanted to show concert sound, and it's impossible to keep buying all the new equipment. So, I found out that it was I could rent myself out as an engineer, not have the grief of it, and do well and make more money. So. That's what I did. I gave that crap up and just decided that I'd go out as a front of house engineer.
Yeah, I wouldn't wish a sound company on my my worst. You know what I mean?
Especially right now.
Yeah, well, especially right now. Yeah. So, at some point in your career, you decided to move on and start your own company. Why logistics, and why? Like, how did that all come about?
Well, it came about really due to having a son. All the time it's just myself and my wife. My wife's in the music business. She would go off and do projects. We'd hook up. I'd fly her out somewhere. It was no big deal. But as soon as kids come along, there's an anchor going down, and it's a lot more difficult. So I think it's on the Lauryn Hill tour. I was offered a job doing logistics. I knew a couple of production managers that had moved on to that and failed. And because I knew there was going to be a big gap in the money, knew that from the start. So I thought, okay, well, and I played it for a couple of years just to build up some cash reserve, and thought I'll give this a go. And my son was 3 at the time, and it wasn't actually EFM, it's another company, and I got an offer from them, and I moved to them, and a big kick to the ego to start with, as I always say, because you go from the guy doing arenas, doing sheds, doing whatever, being in charge, to the guy that's standing outside the venue waiting for a prick like me to come and give him a pass to say hello,
Man.
So it was a little bit of reality check there. The best part, I think, was the first agent attendance I did, when I just had to check myself in at the airport and not 30 other people moaning at me. That was like, oh, this is good. I can get on with this. But it also offered I'd had experience in logistics. When in the 90s and stuff, I'd always get up and go and do the carnets, get off the bus, go and check the carnet in, and I've got a couple of funny stories about that. Build the pallets, go to the airport. So I had some knowledge. It seemed like a reasonable move. Plus, it gave me the opportunity to go out on agent attendance and meet other people and to get the travel thing that's been in my blood for so long to feed that. So that kind of worked. So I thought I'd try it, and I thought, is there any problem with it? I can always flip the coin and go. I knew I could go back to being on the road because I'd already done it. So, and this would be easier because I'm within United States and English-speaking bands, not with an Italian artist that doesn't speak a word of English hardly, or doesn't sing in English anyway. So I thought I'd give it a shot, and then we were partnered at the time with a UK company that was a regular freight forwarder, and it's driving me mad, and it's driving other people in the company mad. So Mike Llewellyn had just formed EFM in the UK, and he was over Waitrose store with 3 other guys. And we went across to see him and decided to partner up with the EFM. So that's how the EFM thing started. And then it went to like 2004, and there was some complications with the company I was with. And Mike called me and said, "Hey, do you fancy should we start EFM in the USA?" And that's when it happened, beginning of 2005. So nearly 16 years ago, we kicked it down the road. And I thought, well, again, I could always go back to starting a new company. At that time, my daughter had just been born, so it was a bit of a risk. I had a less than 1 or just about 1-year-old daughter, and so it's a bit of a risk, and the young family and blah blah blah. But it worked out. I mean, I built up somewhat of a client base, including Mr. Digby, and most followed me because it's as you know, personal relationship business. And so yeah, the rest is, it's kind of built from that point. So.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, there'd been a number of freight forwarders, already well established at that time. How hard was it to get the people to follow you and to get new accounts and sell your wares to these people that have been using other companies? Was that a big hurdle?
Well, I not really, because the good thing, I had the advantage at least of having so many years of being a production manager, being an audio engineer, running around the world, doing what you guys do now. So it was actually an asset that I could go out and I knew all the terminology. It wasn't like a guy coming in that was an import clerk or an export clerk that, hey buddy, come on board and do this. So I already had a great deal of experience and knowledge and knew a bunch of people that I was working with and at the venues and so on and so forth. So it also helped that they could trust me. A certain amount of bands, including Linkin Park, could trust me to unload their trucks in the morning, put all their stuff in the right position, ready, so they can have another hour or two in bed, which is crucial. That's great when you're on the road and you're getting lack of sleep. So to have somebody there that can look after stuff for you and you know you're in safe hands was a great advantage.
Trust me, as many times as if I had to call you and say, find this certain case, you know which one it is, and just your background in audio and all that stuff. You've got such a great knowledge base of what we have and what every piece is. That's definitely helpful and time saving. I can tell you that firsthand.
Yeah, I think, definitely your experience. I always felt like whenever you were around, there was a second production manager there. You know what I mean? Like another person that understood what was going on. So that was really great.
And now that Pooch says second production manager around, early on in my career, bands didn't have A, B, and C systems and the routing that goes on now and all that stuff. How much has that changed? And how much does a guy like you or somebody else at EFM have to be involved with the production? And it's always probably from the start, right?
Well, the smart ones, yes, will involve us from the start, because when you're planning gigs, you know what booking agents are like. They're going to go money, 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 right? And then you've got to go fill. So they're going to go for the money dates first, and then put all the fillers in between. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's it's like from London to Edinburgh. It could be London to Moscow or something. So the initial planning stages is very crucial, and the people that are well versed will get me involved or get us involved, whether it's me or one of the other agents. In the very early stages, to say, hey, well, I've got this, and this, can I do it? Or how much is it going to cost? Or, well, for that amount of money, I can build a second set. We can A/B, flip-flop, ocean air. And so that's it. Like you say, it never used to be like that. It used to be one set of gear. But then again, there never used to be so many assistants too. There used to be a lot of the time when I was doing it was just me. There was no office full of assistants and stuff. In fact, I remember one tour that it was a tour where they had a lot of family and friends on tour, and they decided to give this one guy, they give him a job of my production assistant, and he came in the first day at like 8 o'clock in the morning, and I gave him dressing room signs to put out and mark the floors to where the band get on stage and all the rest of it. Second day came in at 10 o'clock. The third day, I didn't see him. I didn't see him for about a week. I said, Mel, so what the fuck, man? He's like, well, what are you doing? I said, well, I decided this job wasn't for me. I said, why is that then? He said, will you just give me all the piddly shit? I said, well, what do you expect me to do? Go and get you to mark the stage for the rigging points? Or you're going to be like the audio engineer or hang the lights or something? You've got to start somewhere. So I digress. But it has changed a lot. And there's, due to financial reasons and routing, I think due to the fact that records don't sell anymore, and you've got all-encompassing deals, and the fact that management now look, and the bean counters now look at touring as a source of revenue where they never used to. The dates have tightened up so much. You can't afford to have a road crew sitting around in hotels for a week in between legs of tours to get over jet lag and that kind of stuff. So it's tightened up a lot, which makes deadlines a lot more difficult, which encourages 2 sets of gear, 3 sets of gear, or whatever. But that can get very complicated.
Yes.
I know. Yeah, yes.
Yes.
As we all know.
We're all laughing, guys, out there, because with Linkin Park, we had 3 different board groups going around, not only sound but backline and
then certain elements from one to the other, and it's like it wasn't just like A, B, and C. It was like,
oh my God, it was like a shell game. It was, it was crazy. That's kind of why we're all laughing about it. But listen, Steve, I know you've saved my life a bunch of times with the small amount of production managing that I've done. I just remember like doing Slash and also Alter Bridge, where the manager would call me and say, hey, we're gonna, the booking agent says we're gonna do this to this, and I look it up and I go, there's no way. And my first call was to you going, hey, is this possible? Because I don't think that we can make this. And so I had you as an ally. I'm just wondering, how often does that happen? Like, let's say in larger tours that you're doing, do you get a bunch of calls like that and have to, tell the booking agent, like, sorry, dude, that's not going to work?
Yeah, that happens a lot. I mean, sometimes it doesn't happen, and there's certain genre of music where it doesn't happen. I won't go further into that, but yeah, for the most part, the people are sensible when they call up and say, hey, how the hell are we going to make this work? Can this happen? And it's either yes or no. And one of the other problems that we face these days is the fact that jets can travel so much further. So, like for instance, in domestic North America, it used to be all 747s, DC-10s, all the rest of it, 1011s. Now it's, for the most part, it's 737s flying across country. There's only certain routes where you've got wide body aircraft to be able to take equipment, and if you put it on narrow body, the equipment has to be a certain size, then it gets belt fed like your luggage does. So you can imagine what it's going to look like. You put on 10 pieces and it comes out as 32 pieces.
Wow, one of my favorite things having you on, especially, is you're struggling to do your career, be an audio engineer, lighting, whatever you're doing, and you never think you need to know about cookie sheets and upper deck and lower deck and all this kind of stuff. How much stuff you got to really know to do the job? It's amazing. It's incredible, the stuff you got to know.
Yeah. And you'd think that doing logistics or doing freight for rock and roll bands, predominantly for me anyway. I mean, our company does a lot of other stuff, but I'm music. And you think it'd be fairly boring. It's never a dull moment. There's always
never a dull moment.
Never a dull moment. It's always someone shouting at you, or one of my guys coming in pissing and moaning about something. It's like we're always getting to group hug, group chats together and hashing stuff out and brainstorming. We did one yesterday morning actually.
Wow.
But it's never a dull moment.
So this thing that we're doing, Wrong End of the Snake, is all about relationships. And I think about, you must have a network of worldwide relationships with local guys, right? Like, how long did that take to develop and get to know, like, the guy in, I don't know, Beijing, for instance, because you have to know a local guy in order for him to handle the big picture, right? And trust him.
It took a while. There's a network of agents. I mean, we have offices in obviously LA, New York, London, Dubai, and Australia. So we've got our own offices, but that took a while to get those together. And it's a question, finding the like-minded agents. There were some that were handed down from my old company, which were good. There's some that we find that other companies, our competitors, use, especially in areas where there's not a lot of volume of freight. So you find, one person like in Costa Rica or Puerto Rico or whatever, it's small, the islands, whatever. There's normally one good company there that everybody uses. But finding the right agents is a trial and error to a certain extent. Luckily, Mike had the experience of being with Rocket Cargo beforehand, and so had a number of good agents, and we built up a network and control different territories. So like our UK office will control Europe, we control North America and Mexico. South America is a network of agents that we use. Asia is a network of agents that we use. And then of course, Middle East and Australia, we have our own offices, but it did take a while. And now, of course, after so many years of doing it, but we've got a very good tried and tested network of agents that are very like-minded and are good at what they do.
And let me ask this. You have so many great people that work there, Jason and what's, I forget his first name, Sprague, Johnny,
Yeah.
Johnny Sprague. Yeah. Great people that work there. We always got you out on Linkin Park. How did Dick
How did we get the big boss?
How did that happen?
Poor babies, it's just that's so. I mean, but you just got the wrong end of the snake, man.
It was always like you showing up in some weird corner of the world, like, oh, hey, Steve, what are you doing here?
That's funny because Jimmy Bernardo said that to me. He said, how come is it when we're in the armpits of the world, you show up? But when we go to Hawaii, one of your guys shows up.
You never get to go to Hawaii again. Oh, man. Has there been any place in the last, I don't know, whatever, 10 years where you were like, oh, crap, I've never been there. And like, how do I get the logistics of that? Like, some of these bands do crazy things where they go and they want to play in Afghanistan, for instance.
Yeah.
Maldives. Yeah.
Yeah. Or the Maldives or someplace weird. What's the weirdest place that you've had to?
Kazakhstan springs to mind. I did a show there with Black Eyed Peas in Kazakhstan, but I didn't actually go to that one. That was one of the few armpits of the world I didn't show up in. And then, of course, the tour of China that I did with you guys. That was unusual.
That was crazy, guys. We did a tour of China, kind of. Well, I would say definitely we played cities that no rock band had ever played.
Yeah,
stadiums.
Right.
And to do testing on field testing on microphones, and the customs rejected our shipment because I had an electric fan in there.
Oh.
Never heard of that before, so all we did was went away and came back the next morning because we had time and waited for the shift to change, and it got cleared no problem.
And how does that work with you? You talk to your agent and tell him like, dude, you got to make this happen, whatever it takes. That's got to be a weird conversation. And how do you get around the language barrier?
Normally, most agents speak English. There's very few that there's a problem. If they don't speak English, then they have someone that does speak English, because, of course, we're all lazy and don't speak any other language. So that's good. But we would present a scenario to them. First of all, I'd always want to have some kind of backup. You never one and done. Plane goes mechanical. There's fresh fruit goes on it. There's body parts. There's meat. There's whatever it is. Cherry season. The first thing to get bumped, even if you're paying express, is our gear. It's
wow, interesting.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's a few where I always say to my guys that if there's only one way to get it there, then you've got to let the production manager make that decision. You've got to make them aware of what all the problems could be, and it might go without. It might go on, but if it goes wrong, you've got to make them aware that this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. So you've got to get out of jail free card if they decide to move forward, because you're at the mercy of the airline or whatever. Customs, same kind of thing. You always talk in advance to them and get your agent, who normally they have someone that has a good relationship with customs. You submit your manifest in advance, which is why we're always crying for manifests, and make sure there's nothing that throws up a red flag.
Like batteries.
Yeah.
Like batteries, yeah.
In
like
China.
Batteries.
I've got a shipment going on right now with a lot of different batteries, and it's challenging.
Yeah.
That was so weird. It was like we couldn't have any batteries, and so we had to buy AA Chinese batteries, like in every.
And then I had to arrange a
truck.
full van,
Yeah.
truck to put all the batteries on, and they even wanted the stuff out in the internal built-in batteries. It's like that's crazy, but
It's really weird.
we got through it.
Yeah. Got through no problem.
Can you tell, you mentioned it a little bit. We talked about carnes and, all of these kind of things. Can you just speak to that a little bit, guys that are younger, guys that maybe haven't had any experience? Let's talk about maybe going into Canada, for instance.
Yeah. Good one.
What are the things that you need to have or that EFM needs to help you to get gear across into Canada, per se?
Well, getting gear into Canada, there's two ways you can do it. You can go in by truck with a manifest per truck and have the promoter work with a broker, or us work with a broker, our brokers, to get it set up, or BZ, another broker that work with everybody up there. Or what I always ask is, because that costs you whatever, $300, $400, $500 a truck to get it across the border. What I always ask, are you going anywhere else, or what's the tour? What's the plan for the tour? What's the big picture? Because if you're starting off in Canada, well, first of all, let me go there. You're starting off in Canada, and you're going maybe 6 weeks in America, then going over to Europe and going elsewhere. Then raise a car note, because you don't need to do it by truck going into Canada. You can do it by just on a car note. You can take 6 trucks in on one car note, or 3 trucks, whatever it is. And that's easy peasy. You just need to make sure that the driver stops at both sides. We send out a sheet with explicit instructions that aren't always followed, I must admit.
That's true.
But you pound it and pound it and pound it, and we mark up with the car note with each thing in each stage for it to be signed in, signed out, and sometimes you have to stop, the other side of the border and go and find someone, knock on the door. Rather than say, there's nobody here, let's just bugger off, because that will get you into trouble, and there will be a claim on the car note. So there's pros and cons for both ways, but the cheaper way and easiest way is a car note if you have one.
Can you explain? I think that maybe there's guys that are watching this that don't know what a carnet and a manifest is. Explain what that is.
A carnet is basically the way I best explain it. It's a passport for your equipment. You take it in, and you get your passport stamped in and out of each country. Not all countries take carnets. South America mainly, and other areas, because you don't really make a lot of money on a carnet. You raise the carnet, and you just charge a fee for stamping it. Whereas manifests, they will charge you $2,000 or $3,000 or more in some areas to clear a manifest in. And some countries like Mexico will throw up barriers like, well, if you okay, we're a carnet country now. This happened a couple of years ago, whatever. But they say, okay, if you bring your gear in on a carnet, then it's subject to 100% inspection.
Oh, wow.
So that means you bring this in, and we're going to look at your gear for 2 days. Which
that's right. So you might not want to do that.
Which may or may not happen. It may be bullshit, but can you afford to take that risk? No, you can't. You pay the money, get the stuff in there.
Pay the money.
Now, both require a pretty detailed list of whatever it is.
Yes,
right?
Yeah, country of origin, value, serial numbers, and a description of goods are always required. And we have a format to send out to people to fill in, which is fairly straightforward. And then you look at the carnet. The yellow counterfoils of an American carnet for in and out of America. The white, there's counterfoils and vouchers, which never get used properly by American customs, to be quite honest with you. But for each territory you go to outside of the US, you have white vouchers and counterfoils, which you fill in, fill out. And then you've got blue transit vouchers if you're just driving through a country. So you're driving through Switzerland, which is a non-EU country. It's a carnet country. If you have to drive through Switzerland, then you can use a transfer voucher. But you still have to stop and declare it and whatnot. And then the amount of vouchers you raise for a carnet depend on how long the tour is and how many territories you're going to. You can always add to the carnet. You can always request more vouchers. We just have to keep an eye on it and see where you're going and how many. If we start off with 10 and the album does well, and the tour gets extended for 6 months to a year, we just have to make sure that the carnet is not going to expire, because it expires within a year, and B, that we have enough vouchers to go to the territory, so you're not stuck at any one border.
And it's about taxes, right? It's basically you are saying, I didn't buy this gear in this country, and now I don't need to, pay taxes on it. I brought it here, and now I'm going to take it away. That's basically what both of those two documents are saying.
You can do a temporary import bond as well, but those are getting more and more complicated, and they take longer generally than a carnet. A carnet is like the accepted method of temporary import. Like I say, you can do a TIB, but that's a bit more messy. Or sometimes we do permanent imports as well, which you need a certain a consignee, somebody to have a company with whatever territory is going to do permanent imports.
And I know carrying the band's ears, sometimes they wanted me to have at least documentation of where they were purchased at and stuff. I was couple guys at immigration were giving me a hassle every once in a while, and I always felt a little weird doing that, but that's what it took. So they scrutinized it pretty good.
it's not a bad idea to keep copies. I mean, if you're taking electronic equipment with you as tools of the trade, it's not a bad idea to keep a manifest with you of what you've got and purchase receipts or copies of them. Just have it in an envelope in your bag, just in case it's needed. Some territories will actually ask for that. In my early days of touring, we had a couple of problems with trying to carry guitars. I mean, in the old days, geez, we used to carry, you know, in the early days, I put whole back lines on the check luggage. You just give a Skycat 20 or 40 bucks. And,
yeah.
4x12s and kick drums and shit coming down the belt, you know.
Yeah.
We had a couple of problems there. We got stopped by customs, actually in England, going back into England, and our guitar tech was fried for 8 or 10 hours. Yeah, on guitars that had actually been bought in Germany, but he never had any receipts from. So they were saying, you know, you bought these in America. So that was not nice.
Let me clear up an old myth that I've always heard, and I don't want to jinx anything, so I'm going to knock on wood. Do we pay extra money for our sea containers to get in the middle, or do they really fall off, or do they don't really fall off?
They do fall off. It's very rare. We have to pay an insurance. I think it's $1,000 a year, which for our FMC Federal Maritime Commission license, you have to, in order to put stuff on a boat, you pay a fee. And if a container falls off and all the goods are rough seas and the strap, it all goes horribly pear-shaped. That insurance policy is covered from everybody who has contributed to having an FMC license. So, yeah.
So does it matter?
You can't buy a spot, though. You can't buy that center spot or they won't fall off.
We can request it. But then again, that's a rock and a hard place, because then it gets unloaded a lot later at the next destination.
Yeah,
so,
okay.
The dock workers that day decided to only unload the ones on the outside, and you can't get your gear.
We had a situation one time where there was I won't say who it was, but there was a strike in Long Beach, and there was 1 million boats moored outside. They couldn't get them, and the manager called up and said, "Well, can't you just send a boat off and take the container off and bring it back with our gear?"
Yeah.
Like, have you ever seen a container ship?
You ever seen one?
Like, so, is that 1/3 from the left or down? Is that one out sticking on this boat for us, mate?
You might want to Google that and let's see what they look like. Yeah.
We want the one on the middle. It's 3 down.
Yeah.
That's not happening. What's like the weirdest experience that you've ever had, shipping, or let's say, what is the weirdest thing that you've ever had to ship? Let's go there first. For a band.
Well, this is for a band. This is a project I did a couple of years ago. Well, probably more than a couple of years ago now. Solar aircraft coming out of Hawaii. This thing was going around the world. It crashed in Hawaii, and the poor babies the crew was stuck there for 10 months. Fixing it. And they were all fit young kids from France and Switzerland, and they fixed the plane, and I went over there, and they had about 10 or 12 ton of support gear for the solar aircraft, right? And it was flying from Hawaii to San Jose, right? And it took 5 days, I think, to fly it from Hawaii to San Jose. And it got up to like 30,000 feet when the sun was up. But when, of course, nighttime came, it started coming down and basically nearly crashing. Then the sun would come up and it'd come back up again. But we had to wait for the plane to get to the point of no return, which was about 20 hours or 22, nearly the second day into the flight. We had to wait till the point of no return before we could ship the gear, the backup gear, the support gear.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah.
So then we shipped the gear from Hawaii to LA. And then we put it in a truck, and we have to drive to San Jose. We have to get it there and on site at the airport before the plane lands, otherwise it crashes.
Oh my God.
The fit young kids, they're these special engineered bicycles, and they cycle down the runway and they catch the plane as it comes in because it's only got one wheel in the middle.
That is definitely the weirdest thing that you've ever seen.
Talk about pressure gig, huh?
Well, we have to get it there or someone's going to die.
Well, there's only two pilots on the plane, and they had a special diet because obviously they couldn't do number twos on the plane. So And then they had the tube. I don't know if you've ever seen those tubes. They're a liquid and they turn to like a rubber jelly.
No, but okay.
Yeah, just like vitamins and stuff. It's
Oh,
space
wow.
oddity. I only did that one. Well, I did that one leg, and it continued around the world, and got back to it completed the flight. So yeah.
Oh,
Wow, that's crazy.
now I have a quick question. Not quick. I'm going to make this a little bit long. Back in the early 90s, on a Phil Collins tour, I wanted to make a little extra money, so I signed up after the shows to do the cargo. So basically, we loaded out of the stadiums we were playing then, and then we would take all the gear to the airport way before 9/11 and anything like that, and load into the airplane, and then fly on the airplane, and then load back the gear out, and then take it to the gig. So it was one more load in and load out without setting it up. But I was flying on the Antonov An124.
Oh.
And I can't explain to any of our viewers out there what that plane is like.
Just tell them what it's like. It's horrible.
I found out later how damn dangerous that plane is.
Oh, absolutely.
First off, it's Russian, but anyway.
Yeah, it's a Russian plane.
One of the first gigs I did with Jim Digby was when he was production manager for Marilyn Manson. And Mike Amado was tour manager, and Robert Long was stage manager, and we were
the A-team.
It was a Portugal down to Lisbon, truck down to Lisbon, and then load an Antonov 12, and then fly into Midland Airport in England and get it to, I think it was Darlington or one of those. And anyway, I'd recently been in England, and I bought some Andrews liver salts powder, which is just like a spring drink thing, and it's all white powder in a container, right? And it's in my suitcase. And
I see where this is going.
The Antonov came down at such an angle, it's like your ears were popping, right? And when we landed, of course, here you go, Sonny, come over here. Customs is Marilyn Manson. There's got to be drugs here somewhere.
Yeah,
right?
Of course there is.
I opened up my suitcase and my heart fell out my mouth. There was white powder everywhere.
Oh my God.
Someone stitched me up here. That was racing through my mind. Who stitched me up? So somebody in my suit. And they're going, yeah, come along with me, lad. And of course, they tasted it, and I realised what had happened, and it was all good, and they didn't find any drugs, so that was great. But that was, wonderful. Yeah, and then I asked where the toilet was. There's a bucket over there, and you've all got your brown Russian things, coats to sit on. It's horrible. That was only a 2-hour flight.
Valves.
Yeah.
I would never do it again.
Yeah.
Never do it again.
How long was that flight, Taylor?
Well, I think we could. We did a whole leg of a tour with it.
Oh God!
The range of those planes was very short, so we stopped a lot. Maybe it was only 8-hour spans it could go, or 6 hours. So we were stopping quite a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you were riding on the thing like every night, right? For a couple of months, maybe, or
every other night.
And how much money did you get?
I think back then, I got an extra $500 a day, which that was great.
Yeah.
And sleeping on those wooden benches in the plane, though, was
so you don't value your life that much, then.
Yeah. I didn't know at the time it was that dangerous.
Oh my God, that's horrible. So what is, when you see a carnet or a manifest or a list of where the tour is going, what strikes terror in your heart? What's the country that you go, oh, or the city or the country, whatever? What's the one? There's got to be one.
Central America is pretty bad, I would say. Panama.
Central America, yeah.
Normally it's like, Michael, Jason. Oh, here you go. Russia can be a problem, but we got good agents there. That's a tough one. There's a few difficult territories.
And what about import taxes? What are the real bad countries on that? Where you'd go to a production manager, you don't want to go out of Russia into here, you don't want to go into here out of there because, man, it's expensive.
Well, South America is notorious for it. South Africa, Africa rather, not South Africa. Obviously bringing stuff out of China now. I was working with a lighting company, and we were bringing stuff out of China, and there was 25% tariff due to Trump. So that company is actually moving to Taiwan now, whereas I think it's like 2% tariff. But yeah, it's mainly the countries that aren't rich, really, that will try and rich people. Let's try and rake some from a bit of cash. Let's tip them upside down and see what falls out of pockets.
You don't have to tell us specifics, but has there ever been a time where you like had to have a suitcase full of cash to get a bunch of gear out, or like has it ever been like totally shady? Has there been a situation where you've been like, oh my God, this is
I need another 10.
We tend not to do that. It used to happen a lot more in the past than it does now. Because basically, everything being up to speed with electronics, computers, internet, all the rest of it, and cameras, it's a lot more difficult. I mean, I don't think I've ever done it, because the other problem is if you do it one time, then the next
it'll hit you every time after that.
So if you're going in with a massive band and it costs you $3,000, it's like one of those. That's one thing. But then you go in with a band that's got £500 a year and they want the same amount of money. It's not going to work. But no, we don't really don't really do that. I haven't come across that for quite a long time, but it has happened. Yeah.
I'd like to bring up one thing real quick, because we're already it's close to the end of the hour. I said earlier, you get into this business and you want to mix, and there's like knowing the aircrafts and all that stuff you got to know to tour around the world. But you think maybe just being an engineer, you don't need a freight service or something, but me and Pooch use you all the time for a variety of stuff. So don't think calling Steve to ship a console or a rack somewhere it's too small for him. He does that, and he does them at great prices, and he does us, favors on that. And he's always there.
Robert Long has him ship like cars and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. Don't think this is only when we're working for bands that we deal with Steve. We're buying and shipping consoles and gear or something. It's got to go somewhere. I pick up the phone, Steve answers, and it's done. So
yeah,
I just want to throw that out there. You think, well, they only use them on the tour, and that's not necessarily correct.
No, that's right. And you don't, definitely, guys, you don't want to do it yourself.
And one of the things we pride ourselves on, like you say, no job is too small, and we're there 24/7. The phone's always on, and we treat the smallest shipment with as much effort and respect and dedication as we do the largest shipment. And that's something that comes up all the time. It's like, if you've got 10 small shipments, it's just as difficult as working on 10 big shipments. It's still the same process. It's just a matter of weight and crew and all the rest of it. So I do want to plug this real quick. Brodiescom for Ethan and Brad Stoner. You can pay $25 and get one of these. And with this, you can like brow your mop on a hot day, or you can clean your golf clubs, wash your car, and some people even wear them. So just wanted to give that quick.
Great gifts.
Thanks, guys. Music cares. Good job.
I like to give them as gifts because, like Steve, you had a great quote yesterday, and I can't remember. Something like, we're all talking about it, but we're the only ones listening, or something like we're the only ones that are listening, or something. So buy one and give one of those shirts to people that don't know what we do.
I think the only people that are listening to the music industry moaning is the music industry, basically.
Yes.
Yeah, we're only listening to ourselves. Nobody else is listening to us right now.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of people out there trying to help. I know Yeti, Drum Tech Yeti is he just raised a bunch of money with a raffle and all kinds of stuff in order to try to help some of our brothers that are having a tough time. I mean, this is we're into this. We're into 9 months of
well, I mean, we're having a real rough time. It's most of our staff are furloughed. We're trying to come up with new ideas to create revenue just to keep us breaking even keep be able to continue into 2021. So luckily, we're surrounded now with a bunch of smart people that have managed to keep us afloat for this long.
I know I don't want to get into politics, but I know you mentioned Trump earlier and how that kind of changed your business. That's interesting to me. So politics, and also, I mean, we had 9/11 and that terrorist attack must have changed your job immensely. Speak to that. I mean, it seems like your rules change on a regular basis, kind of? How do you keep track of that?
Yeah, you've got to keep up with the guidelines. We have inspections all the time by the TSA. That obviously they came to fruition from 9/11. Things changed a lot. Everything has to be screened. We're a CCSF, a certified screening company, so we can do that. Then everything has to be videoed. And the TSA will come in and look at your logs of your airway bills, make sure that you're stamping out the carnets or doing the shipments correctly, look back at your video, make sure that our warehouse staff are screening the equipment properly and putting a sticker with our screening number on every case. And I've heard instances where we've got to keep the place locked up. We've got to have a designated screening area. We have storage in other parts, but we have to have a secure screening area in our warehouse.
Is that called bonded? Is that bonded?
No, it's not bonded. No. But bonded is something that normally at the airlines or whatnot, where it hasn't cleared customs yet. So the equipment's come in, it's sitting there, and it's waiting for it to clear customs, and then it would come out of the bonded area. It's been released.
Because I know at your place we got to sign in and do all that stuff, and I figured that was for some laws, right?
You've got to keep a record of everything. Everybody has to sign in, sign out. And I say the TSA will come in regularly and go through our documents, look through our videos. Sean is our TSA expert. He's the one that I landed that crap on. Sorry.
Here you go, man. You're in charge of this.
Yeah, enjoy it.
Tell me this. You've been to every airport that anybody could ever imagine. And you don't just walk onto the tarmac. How do you know where that damn door is to get out there and do all that stuff? Because you're not there every day. How do you know? How do you get?
It's just advanced work. There's handlers that you do with. Like if I'm doing a charter, like I'm doing one at the moment, you have a charter broker that will get you the plane, the aircraft, and then there's a handling agent, and then so you go to the handling agent and you work out all the details of how you're going to do it, and the nuts and bolts. And then they'll lead you out there, and you've got to put your high vis jacket on and safety boots and all the rest of it, and build the pallets and tell them this is wrong, this is right. Sometimes you can't touch the gear. Sometimes they'll do it, and you're not allowed. Because at that point you are in a bonded area.
Just like doing a gig.
It's like doing a gig, yeah. Only less fun, and at night.
Now it's funny, not funny. I watched this show on Smithsonian called Air Disasters.
Oh, I watch that all the time. My wife hates it.
I saw the other night they were transporting some a 747 transporting some, I think, like Humvee type vehicles.
Yeah, and then it got loose and the plane went up and it came back down. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thinking, man, what? And the guy was reading the wrong log. And
when I saw those Humvees strapped, I'm like, you have to be kidding. That's never going to hold those buggers. It's
like the ratchet.
Yeah, 2,000-pound strap. Let alone, it's not just the weight of the vehicle, but the torque of the aircraft taking off.
Yeah. So how important? You're dealing with that loadmaster a lot. That guy, they acted like that job was kind of not like, I don't want to say not educated, but like they didn't have to be certified or something. I'm thinking
the loadmaster on that particular instance was following the airline's instructions. He did nothing wrong.
Correct.
The airline was was incorrect. Luckily, we don't often or ever ship that kind of equipment. But you do have to give all your dimensions of your pallets to the loadmaster to balance the aircraft. I had one idiot in Rio a few years ago after rocking Rio tried to tell me that each pallet had to weigh the same weight, otherwise it couldn't take off. So I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? Get a hacksaw and start sawing cases in half so it can balance in it, and I had to get his boss on the air. We were there for hours, getting sunburnt on the tarmac, arguing, and finally had to get his boss on the line and just say, you're a blithering idiot. We've got to do is balance it. They don't have to be the same weight. There's certain positions that can take a certain weight. Over the wings, there's normally more weight than other areas of the aircraft. Obviously, the tail has to be light in order, you don't want it tipping down as it takes off, like that aircraft in Afghanistan. But yeah, it's an important job. Of course it is. The aircraft has to be weighed correctly, otherwise it's not going to fly correctly.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff goes into it. It's just hard to believe just to get stuff from A to B, what has to go into all this stuff. It's just it's tons of stuff.
And even now, I mean, if somebody, I mean, the thing is, if you don't know something, ask. There's plenty of people that are experienced you can call. There's the internet you can go to. I mean, the first thing I do is and now I'll go to everyone and say, what I've got to do is this, and this. This is what I think. What do you think? And is there a better way? Am I thinking this through correctly? Or is there a better way that I haven't thought of? And that happens. We do that all the time amongst ourselves. And invariably, whatever is the first decision that we make is right. But there's other times when people come forward and say, well, I just did this, this, and this, and you can do this. Or this airline's just put this new route on. Perhaps you didn't know about it. And it's like, oh, okay. And, you know.
And I guess you're saying basically, and we'll say is all younger production managers or bands are getting bigger and you're starting to think of going other places. I mean, just call, right? Just ask the questions now. It's not even for business. Just there's people out there that'll tell you this stuff.
Yeah, don't be frightened. I mean, it's you know, there's no reason to move forward like you know everything when you don't. I mean, there's asking the questions and being humble about it is not really a problem. I mean, we're not going to turn around and say, you idiot, you didn't know that? You know, it's not your field of business, it's our field.
Yeah.
And all questions welcome. Anything you can do in advance to make the shipment go smoothly is great. I mean, and, you know, the more information we get up front, the more we can help plan, the better it's going to be for the client.
Yeah, because it can really cost you. It can cost you a lot if you make a mistake too.
Big, it's like, especially on some of those one-shot deals. It's like to get you know, if you miss an airline, I mean, always have a backup. If there's no backup, make sure the production manager is aware, because if it doesn't fly, then you're talking charter. Then a shipment goes from maybe $8,000 to $70,000, you know, or more. So
wow, that's crazy.
Or you blow a show, depends on what your income is on the show.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. I literally remember some logistic / movement in Asia where you were like, if we miss this flight, it's going to cost this much. And I said, well, that's more than what we're making.
But that's it. I'll flag it up all the time. If it's only one way to get it there, then I'll flag it up, because any number of things could go wrong. You know, weather, aircraft going mechanical. How many times have you got, you know, an aircraft gone mechanical and you on a passenger flight? It's and you get screwed. You've got another aircraft coming in. And the other thing I always say to people is like, you know, well, can you know. Someone calls me up and says, well, can you get the equipment from A to B? And it's an impossible route. So I say, well, how are you getting there? I said, oh, we can't get there till the following day. So, well, how do you expect us to get it there?
How are we going to get there? Yeah, exactly. I know, that's great.
You know,
that's a good one, yeah.
I mean, I always like to put stuff on passenger flights, mainly because freighter can be delayed at any time. Sometimes it has to be freighter. It's main deck, obviously, it has to be freighter. But I like to utilize passenger planes as much as possible, because they're always going to try and get the passengers there. A freighter, it can be delayed for 8 hours or a day or whatever. Passenger aircraft, unless there's a major mechanical problem, will fly.
I want to go into one thing before we're way over time, but I want to go into one more thing. Can we get those round stickers that they put on that peel into 16 different pie pieces? Can we get those changed to just a single piece, or maybe just in half? They take forever to peel off the cases.
Tater and I clean cases after a tour for a week. It's horrible.
Whatever those stickers are with the pie pieces, those things are just terrible. I want those changed.
Are they the little CCSF stickers? Are those the...
Yes.
Well, that's the design like that, because they're TSA stickers, probably. I'd have to have a look at the ones. I mean,
You just get a corner and you're only peeling a little bit off. You got to do it 16 more times.
Oh my God, it's horrible. Yeah.
Maybe you should just get a piece of plastic and put it there to put the stickers on, and just advise.
You should. That's a good idea.
Those guys will. If you put place stickers here, they will go everywhere, but on that
everywhere, but where it says place the sticker.
Of course.
Well, we definitely have some more questions. I have some more questions for you, and we will get to them in the Q&A over time. And you guys check that out in a couple of days when we post that to the YouTube channel. Steve, thank you for coming, man. And it's been a lot of fun just to kind of catch up with you. And we hope you're doing well. And thanks for giving of your time. We appreciate you.
No problem at all. It's great fun. Always good to see you guys. And I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, a lot of fun. Good talking logistics.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey guys, next week on Wrong End of the Snake, it's Eric Singer. Eric is the drummer of the rock band Kiss. He also played. What's that?
I've heard of them.
I've heard of that band. Yeah. He also played with Alice Cooper, Badlands, Glam Nation, Lita Ford, Black Sabbath, Brian May of Queen, and his own band, ESP. He's originally from Cleveland, Ohio. Eric will take us through his career and life on the throne behind some of the biggest artists in the world. That's Eric Singer next week. Be sure to tune in Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our videos. We just passed 1,000 subscribers to our channel. We are very grateful that you have helped us reach this milestone. Thank you. If you love us, keep telling your friends. Subscribe and smash like on all of your videos, please. We think there is great knowledge that our guests share with us on a weekly basis that many in the live event industry could use when we get back to work. Speaking of getting back to work, we're still trying to get our elected officials to listen to us about restart and include it in the debated current stimulus package. Right now, we are collateral damage. In other words, our pleas for help are being unheard. We need funding to keep the 12 million people in the live event industry afloat. Many of us are independent contractors or we own small businesses that have not had income since March. Please go to extendpua.org, wemakeevents.org, NAMM.org, N-A-M-M, and for help with mental health and well-being, theroadieclinic.com. For more information on how you can help, contact your representatives in the House and Senate to remind them about our forgotten industry and ask them to include Restart Act in the stimulus package. Without skilled workers like Tater, myself, and Steve, vendors and manufacturers, there will be nobody left to be put on shows when we are allowed to gather again. Thank you for the support. If you are here and you are not a member of the industry but love live events, please do what you can to help lobby our cause. We will be the last to go back to work. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Steve. We'll see you next week on